There's a lot of vocabulary with this section, and first of all we're going to look at how many terms something has. So if something has one term, we're going to say monomial, two terms binomial, three terms trinomial, and in theory any number of terms could be called a polynomial, so anything over three we're generally going to say it's a polynomial. And if it's specifically one of these, we'll try and use this word of vocabulary. Now there are a few things to help you here, to remind you. Notice polynomial ends in M-I-A-L, and actually so do all of these answers as well. So really all we have to do is try and remember the first part of this. So mono, like a monorail, that runs on one rail, or something like that. Monochromatic means just a single colour. Mono means one. Bi, slightly more obvious, bicycle. Tri, like a triangle with three sides, or a tricycle. So there's a few extra clues to help you on those ones. Oops. Also, the other definition is to do with the degree, and the degree refers to the highest power of the polynomial. So if we just have a number, then its degree is 0, and we call it a constant. If we have x, as in x to the power of 1, then the degree is 1, and we call this one linear. Much more obvious for the last two, because you can see the power is 2. We call that one quadratic, and 3, we call it cubic. Some are easier to remember than others. 3, you would say that as x cubed anyway, so that contains the word cube as part of cubic, which makes that a little easier. Unfortunately, quad refers to 4, so that's slightly misleading for this one, so be very careful as you're learning that one. Quadratic refers to 2. If I said draw the graph of y equals x, what I'm hoping you do is that a nice straight line. So when you have just an x with no exponent, that's referred to as linear. And if there are no x's, then it is 0. Now, the degree of a monomial is the sum of the exponents of all its variables. So if we have multiple variables within the same term like this, certainly for x, we should know it's x to the power of 1. So what we would do here is we do the sum of these numbers. So 1 plus 7, we say it actually has a degree of 8. So we did a little exercise then, just to see if we can remember how we apply all those words of vocabulary, and also to decide if something actually is a polynomial or not. So the first two are perfectly good. They just look like our regular terms being added and subtracted. But our last one, we're dividing by a variable, so that one's going to be no. Now there's a couple of things we can do with regards to time. We can talk about the number of terms. So the number of terms is basically we're looking for the subtracts and adds. How many different groups do we have? So we've got two groups here. So we could say this one's binomial. This one here, we have a term, then we've got the plus sign, then we've got a subtract, and then we've got another term. So there's 3 terms for that one. So we'll say trinomial. And the highest power, well, this one doesn't have any power at all. This one has a power of 1. So we can say the degree is 1, and if it has a degree of 1, we can say it's linear, as it's just an x. Now for this one has a degree of 2, which we can see. 1 and 1, if we add those together, that also has a degree of 2, and this has a degree of 0. Now you've got to be careful on this. A lot of people in class are actually adding all 3 numbers together. We're just looking for which is the highest of all of these. So this is 2, this is 2, this is 0. So the highest we had in any of these was 2. So the degree is 2, which means that it's actually a quadratic. Remember the strange part, quad normally means 4. And I'm not going to do that for this one because this one isn't even a polynomial anyhow. Then just to check our vocabulary, we also looked at finding the degree of each polynomial. So this one has no number at all, so the degree is 0. Or if we want to use the vocabulary for that, we could say that this is a constant. Highest power, well it looks like 3, but remember we've got an x here as well. So 1 plus 3 is 4. So that's the degree. Power of 4 we didn't actually talk about, but if you want to know that word, a quartic is something that has a power of 4. Quart, like quarter, which means relates to 4. We just have a c here, so no exponent, which means it must be 1. So actually that is our degree. This is 1. And the word of vocabulary for something with a degree of 1 is called a linear. This one here, we've got to check a couple of things. This one has a degree of 0 because it's just a number. This is b to the 1, so that has a power of 1. 1 and 1, and we're going to add these together because we're multiplying. And our last one has 3. Once again, don't just add all these together, look which is the highest of all these, which is 3. So our degree for this one is 3, and the word for something with a degree of 3 is a cubic, just like this is b cubed. And for E, this has a power of 2, this has a power of 1, this has a power of 0. What's the highest power? 2, and the word for that is the same one we had earlier, is quadratic.